Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Power Hour. Today's topic is going to be Copilot notebooks. This is in Copilot for Microsoft 365. So if you have a Microsoft 365 Copilot license, you'll be able to see it and try it and follow along. So all right, so Copilot notebooks are a new feature that's come out just in the last few weeks in Microsoft 365 Copilot, and gives you the ability to really contextualize your Copilot chats and content. So you have the ability to create a notebook where you can consolidate and have it. You're not moving files into the notebook, but you're having the notebook reference all the files of, maybe a certain project you're working on, or a certain like idea that you're trying to brainstorm, or content you're trying to create. And you can input all this data, all these files and meetings and things, and loop. And then you, when you chat in this Copilot notebook, your chats are contextual based on all that stuff, all that data that you're working on. So it's kind of different. Now, when you think about an agent goes and it's pointed to a set of files or content or site, and the agent is something that you can ask questions to. But think of a notebook as more of a constant collaboration space where you're adding files and references to it, and it's more like a living, breathing thing than an agent. Is more like you create the agent, you put it in place, you point it to the content, and then people just ask the agent, they chat with the agent. So this is a bit different, and it's got a cool functionality for it will generate a podcast, Joelle. It will generate a fake podcast with fake people talking about your content. So here, I'll go ahead and share my screen. I actually have a few slides. All right, so here are this is Copilot notebooks. This is just before I even show you the Copilot notebook, I want you to kind of think about use cases so you can kind of get that going in your head, so you're thinking about things you can use them for before we even get started. So here are just a few, and of course Copilot helped me think of these examples, and Copilot wrote these slides. So think about an executive briefing notebook where you can gather all the documents, emails, and meeting transcripts related to a certain strategic initiative. And it can surface key insights, summarize decisions and actions, and create a briefing document for leadership. And then again, all these, you can create a podcast off of this information. You could, this one has got, that one, that's weird. That had white text on it. This one could do like onboarding, company onboarding for new employees. So create a notebook that consolidates onboarding materials, training videos, highlight common questions or confusion points, and you can, and again, it will have a podcast somebody can just listen to about the whole onboarding process. And it's not just reading your content, it's the AI is having a conversation about your content. You could also do a client engagement summary, use a notebook to collect all client related communications, summarize the client's goals and concerns, identify unresolved issues or follow-ups, and you could put your proposals in here as well. Think about a project, not just, you could have a notebook around a whole project, but this is just a very specific idea about a project retrospective. So after the project wraps up, you could put everything, even if you don't use a notebook during the project, you can put all this in there and kind of be able to figure out some lessons learned from the projects, because it'll have things that went well and things that didn't. Then you have content creation workspace. Think about brainstorming and refining content, organizing ideas, and you can tell it your structure and tone, and it can even just draft outlines or create all the content, create content for you. Like I said, Copilot created the content that I'll be using in the fake content for the notebooks I'll be demoing. So those are all my slides for just kind of showing you what to go over. So If you are new to Power Hour, we have in chat, we kind of discuss what, live discussion of what we're doing as we go. So wherever you are watching, you have a link below to click to join in, and to basically it's a request form. So it's a manual request where we invite you, external user, to our tenant. But yeah, we have a lively discussion. We got everybody chatting and asking questions. So join in so you can ask questions as we go. And I will go ahead and show you where you can find this. So I just typed Microsoft365.com, and let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Yeah. So when you go to this main interface for Copilot, this is where you can get to notebooks over here on the left. And I've created one already, so I want to show you the one I created already, and then we'll just create a new one as well. So I am developing a new Power BI course for our training at iwmentor.com. And so I've created a whole slide deck, and I've created an outline, and I've got, just kind of ideas that I've been putting in here. So I created a notebook, and then the notebook is where I can then chat in the notebook about that specific content and within the context of everything regarding that course. I don't know why it's taken so long to spin up. But I have a couple of other examples that I'm going to build as we go. Let me see if I can just refresh this, see what it's doing. Okay, there we go. Okay, so here's one I've already created, and you can see I've got a page and pages. Basically, it's Microsoft Loop. And I've got a slide deck and a Word document. And then what you do is you add all these references to it. So then when I ask Copilot, what are the types of reports? Something like that. Then it's we're just talking in the context of learning about Power BI. So let's see, know your location, sure. Not sure why it needs to know my location to answer that. So whenever you're chatting, the key is that it's just chatting contextually around all that content you've given it. So now it's giving me about information about reports in Power BI. And this is based on my slide deck and outline. So then it's suggesting different other ideas, like explain when to use dashboards versus standard reports, and that's actually in a slide in there. So I'll go back up to the top level here, and you can notice you can refer to the previous chats. So this is a previous chat that I've had. So again, it's part of keeping it in context. So any chat that I have where I ask Copilot, those are things that I can just easily go reference and not have to go dig through all of your conversations that are about random things. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do a brand new one, and then you'll be able to kind of see how I got all this put together. So I go back to notebooks and I do new notebook. What license do you need, says Laura? Microsoft 365 Copilot. All right, so here is, this is one where I'm going to do, let's see, the first one that I'm going to do is the IW Mentor new company onboarding. So I'm going to say I've got an onboarding presentation, I've got a company timeline, and add those here. Oh, I have to give it a name, IW Mentor. And then once you give it some references, of course, you can always keep adding references later, and you'll be able to just, as you have meetings and as new files get created, you can add them in here. And it's not moving the files. It's just, you're just referencing the files wherever they are. So it was just showing like a bunch of recent files that I have. So now it's got references. It says I can add more references. And here's where you have the ability to add Copilot instructions. So this is just where you're chatting with Copilot, which is different than adding the Copilot instructions. So adding the Copilot instructions means you're kind of talking about asking it to focus on certain topics, respond in a certain way, like in bullet points, tailor information to a certain city, or tailor information to a certain audience of people. So audiences is, let's see, business users. That's what this is what I used kind of for that Power BI course too, like Microsoft 365 business users. So that it just knows something more specific. And of course you can tell it how to respond, respond conversationally. It would be interesting test to kind of try different, like tell it different ways to respond and then see kind of what your results are. So then you can go back and edit your Copilot instructions anytime, and then you can also just keep adding content here. So let's see if I can add. So when the next one I'm going to do is going to be like a Contoso executive briefing. So I'll have like a bunch of different content I'll add for that one too. So I'm going to do 2 different notebooks. So this one's going to be pretty simple. Another thing I want to show you here is you can upload from this device and you could just add a link to something and attach cloud files. Of course, these are cloud files. It's just showing me my most recent cloud file, but this is what lets me browse my OneDrive to go find those something specific that I might not see listed here. So, and you can also just drag them directly on here. So that's how you can just keep adding references. And then this is where, let's see, where do new employees go? And then you could ask it using your voice as well if you want to just use the microphone on your computer. I was joking with somebody yesterday saying like, well, we're not gonna know how to type we're not gonna have to know how to type in the future. Everything's just gonna be voice commands. You can just talk to the AI and just tell it what to do. So it's kind of weird to think about it that way. So you're asking where new employees go when they start at IW Mentor. So now it's just like looking at, and I made up all this kind of fake data about the company's history and key milestones and timelines and stuff. But yeah, so it's not getting my onboarding presentation, but yeah. So that is my chat. And then you have to go back up to the notebook like this. Now, before I start doing the audio overview, I'm going to go ahead and do another new notebook and show you what that looks like. And because I created all this sort of fake Contoso project executive stuff with slides and everything, but I got Copilot to create all that. So I'll do a new notebook and I'll call it Contoso Executive Briefing. And then I've got my Project Horizon Technical Overview, my Contoso Leadership Sync, my Contoso Q2 Financials, and then I've got this loop. It's basically a page that I created, and I'll add that in here too. I think that was all I had. Yeah. All right, so now it's putting all those files in there, and then for adding the Copilot instructions, don't forget to do this part. Yeah, you don't have to do this part. It just helps you make it, tell it more about the audience and about kind of what you really expect from Copilot. Audience is executives. Now, my opinion on executives in my work experience is that they are very busy, and a lot of times they're impatient, and a lot of the times they just want to be able to do like one click, and the less clicks possible is what they want to do to get anything accomplished. So you got to keep it simple. You got to keep it straightforward. They got a lot going on. They don't want to have to click and figure anything out. So who are impatient and want to get straight to the point. Want straightforward information. I don't know if you have the same experience with executives in your your business experience. Okay, so now I've got now any chats that I have. Let's see, are we improving financially? And since this the financials is in here, that's what it's going to be looking at. Now I'm going to show you what some of these files look like so that you can see like what it's referencing. So over in PowerPoint, I've got this, and Copilot created this for me. So I've got this Contoso leadership sync, and I'll show you what all the slides look like. It's just this, and it's beautiful. It created like it took like 10 seconds to create this. So this is my fake Contoso leadership sync, and it's just got all this stuff in it. So this is the data that it's referencing. And so that's one of the files. And then it's got a an Excel file. It helps to kind of see what it's referencing for you to kind of see like what, what's the context of what it's doing. So here it's just got a little bit, it just created this, Copilot created this for me. So it's got revenue, expensive, profit and loss, and then some charts. So this is the data that it's referring to. And then, so when I ask it the question, then that's where it's getting its information, and it's getting it from just all of those files. So I've got Contoso showing clear financial improvement, revenue growth, expense management, profit expansion. Would you like a visual breakdown or insights by department next? Oh yes, that's lovely. By department. See if it has that information. I love the way it suggests like what additional things it might ask me, again, contextually. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'll show you a couple of other functionalities in here. But I created this whole demo and all the demo content just using Copilot. But the one that I created with about that Power BI course, that's real world. Like I'm actually going to be using that. I just created it yesterday. So here's a quick breakdown. So it pulled this out of the spreadsheet. So again, the executives, they don't have to go open the spreadsheet. They can just ask Copilot. So that makes it very succinct. And again, it gives you sources. So it lets me know, it just kind of little summary of what the sources are. And then remember, anytime you're having a conversation with Copilot, you could just take this whole conversation and say, edit in pages. So I'll just say edit in pages. And then when you do that, then it's going to create and again, Copilot pages are Microsoft Loop. So now, let's see, this is a weird title, financial by department. And then it just put this data in its own little page here. So now it's called financial by department. I can close that. And then if I have other pages that I want to add, so if I've had a good conversation that's in Microsoft Loop, let me go back up, then I can actually add that as a page. So it actually already added this one as a page for me. So if you have any pages you've created in the past that you created before this notebook, you'll be able to add those too. And then of course you can narrow it down. If you have a bunch of files in here, you can narrow it down by certain, just filter it by certain types of files. And then again, always see the list of chats. And just like anytime you're chatting with Copilot, you can add content to the question that you're asking it. But this add content is not the same thing as adding references. So adding references is going to be where you're like, those are the files that are part of the notebook. And adding content here is more, it's part of your question. Now let's do an audio overview. So it's going to go ahead and generate an audio overview. And when I did this for that Copilot, for the Power BI course notebook, it actually had a little kind of like it would let me hear the audio overview, but it had kind of like a little error telling me that it had proprietary information in it or something like that, to where it wouldn't let me save the audio overview. I don't know if I had customer data in there or just some data that it thought was something that needed to be top secret. I'm not sure why, but yeah. So now it's combing through all the information and it's creating this executive briefing. Now I'm going to go ahead and play it, see it's playing. So I feel like this whole podcast thing is really interesting because it gives you the ability to digest information in a different way. So think about, like, I'm driving to work and I listen to podcasts and, you know, I'm in the car. And so instead of having to wait till I get to the office to sit at my desk and to get caught up on, you know, or understand what's going on with this project, I could just literally listen to this whole conversation about the audio going over the broadcast from the browser. I did that. So let me see if I turn my connecting on premises, public and private cloud systems without data. Its architecture is modular and compute-based.
I think what's fascinating is how Contoso has laid out their leadership.
Anyway. Okay, so it was probably kind of echoey, but maybe you can hear a little bit of that. I just really wanted to exemplify how it's these, isn't that cool? These little robot voice, they sound like actual people, and they're just talking about this Contoso executive, you know, financials and leadership and stuff like that. So another cool thing about these is that you can, now I have references here let me just point you to where we had this in Teams. So this is where we're having our chat. I have notes in here, and I've put links to, here's today, and I put all these links in here. And a big question people have is, what's the difference between Copilot notebooks and OneNote? So they actually have a whole chart, a comparison chart in here if you want to see that. But also, let me move this out of the way. Here's OneNote. So I'm just in OneNote, and what I can do is I can actually go to any of those Copilot notebooks from within OneNote. And look, this is the exact same interface that I was using in the browser. I can keep adding references to this. It's got the same, you know, list of things, got the same exact interface. I can edit it. I can get my audio overview and do all the same things just from within OneNote. So it's just another way to interface into it. So again, all those reference links like give you a lot more details about the comparison and kind of how you can work in these. But yeah, let's switch back. That was a pretty quick one. So yeah, so it's really just the basic information is putting your reference files in there and giving it some instructions. Start chatting with it and try the audio overview and see what you think. And I'm interested to hear kind of what you all think or what your ideas are potentially about how you could use that audio overview. And I'd like to hear, you know, you can chat in the chat later, or just kind of tell me if you're watching this later in the comments what you think about this. But I'm looking forward to using it, and I'm going to start using, like, putting things in here every day and, you know, working on projects in here. And it's just, I love the fact that you're having these contextual chats with AI, and it's extremely helpful and it makes you much more productive. So thanks everybody for coming. Hit iwmentor.com to go take our training courses. We do have a Copilot Power User training course, and we have the schedule button at the top is going to tell you whenever we have power hours. We hold them most Wednesdays at 11 Central. And then the schedule for speaking engagements is in there as well. I'll be speaking at the Power Platform Conference in Las Vegas in October, and TechCon in Dallas in November, the very next week. So see you all next time. Thanks.